For centuries, the Council of Orion had prided itself on its dominance over countless galaxies. This ancient assembly, composed of the most advanced species in the known universe, had rarely encountered a planet so backward that it barely warranted their attention. Earth, a tiny, seemingly insignificant blue speck, had caught their eye not for its resources or technology, but for the sheer curiosity of how a civilization so primitive had avoided total annihilation. It made no sense. The observers sent by the Council were baffled. Their initial reconnaissance missions revealed that Earth had no planetary defense systems, no space fleets patrolling its orbit, no advanced weaponry capable of holding off even a small skirmish force. Their most powerful machines, these so-called nuclear weapons, were laughable, at best dangerous, perhaps to themselves, but to any capable space-faring race? Insignificant. The humans, too, posed little threat. By any metric the Council valued strength, agility, intelligence they were lacking. Their lifespans were short, their understanding of the universe minuscule. Their world, divided into factions, bickered amongst themselves rather than unite as a global force. To the Council, Earth was nothing more than a collection of squabbling children, unaware of the vast dangers lurking beyond their atmosphere. And yet, Earth remained untouched. As the alien fleet prepared for what they believed would be a routine conquest, the generals discussed their plans with barely concealed amusement. "A single ship could probably take this planet," one said, his voice thick with disdain. "Why bother with an entire fleet?" another agreed, laughing. "They're still fighting over dirt and lines on a map. It'll be over before they even realize what's happening." There was no need for caution, they thought. After all, Earth was defenseless. But as they delved deeper into Earth's history, something didn't add up. Time and time again, the records showed species far superior to the humans attempting to subjugate Earth, only to mysteriously fail. Some invasions never made it past the planning stages, others ended in sudden, catastrophic losses. It was as if something unseen, something powerful, protected the planet. But what could it be? Earth had no known allies, no connections to other advanced civilizations. The Council dismissed these anomalies at first, attributing them to poor strategy or unfortunate cosmic events. Still, the question lingered: why had no one succeeded in conquering Earth? In the Council chambers, the discussions grew more heated. Theorists debated the anomalies, but most were confident that Earth's perceived invincibility was nothing more than a coincidence. "It's likely they've just been lucky," one alien commander insisted. Other species underestimated them, as we might have been inclined to do. But with our experience, we'll succeed where others have failed. The arrogance of the invaders was palpable. Their view of Earth was condescending at best, dismissive at worst. They couldn't fathom how a planet without planetary shields, advanced AI defense systems, or an intergalactic presence could pose any real threat. Still, a small faction within the Council warned caution. "Perhaps we're missing something," one said quietly. "The failure rate is too high, the losses too great. There's something we're not seeing." But their voices were drowned out by the louder, more confident ones, the ones eager for conquest and glory. The fleet was mobilized. As the ships prepared for their descent to Earth, the invaders marveled at the simplicity of their task. In their minds, Earth was ripe for the taking, easy prey for a superior force. The invaders didn't bother with detailed plans or extensive strategies. Why would they? Earth's vulnerability was apparent in every scan, every analysis. There was nothing there to suggest that humans had any capacity to defend themselves against an advanced alien species. Still, the strange anomalies lingered in the back of some minds. A few invaders, those with more experience in galactic warfare, couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was not as simple as it appeared. But they were brushed aside by the collective confidence of their peers. This was going to be quick, decisive, and above all, easy. Their ignorance blinded them. It wasn't just their underestimation of human ingenuity and resilience that would be their downfall. It was their failure to recognize Earth's hidden, intangible strengths, the ones that could never be measured by a scan or a technological analysis. The same arrogance that led countless others to failure would soon unravel their plans. And so, with the fleet poised to strike, the aliens prepared for what they believed would be a swift and effortless victory. Their confidence was unshakable, their superiority seemingly undeniable. But what they didn't realize, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that Earth had a way of surprising even the most advanced of invaders. And soon they would discover why no one attacks Earth and survives. The alien fleet descended through Earth's atmosphere with silent precision, their confidence unshakable. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the chance to demonstrate their superiority, to crush a seemingly defenseless world. They had prepared for every possible scenario, or so they thought. Their technology, far beyond anything Earth had developed, gave them the sense of invincibility that had carried them through countless conquests across the galaxy. Their ships hovered over major cities, scanning for military installations, defense systems, anything that could potentially pose a threat. But there was nothing, at least nothing, that considered significant. Earth's rudimentary weapons were so far beneath their notice that the invaders didn't even bother activating their shields. They believed this invasion would be over within hours. But almost immediately, things began to go wrong. As they initiated their first wave of strikes, strange disruptions began to occur. Their targeting systems, flawless in every other battle, started malfunctioning. Earth's atmosphere, while seemingly innocuous, interfered with their communications. Sensors went haywire. Their ships, designed for the vacuum of space, struggled with the unpredictable weather patterns that were uniquely Earth's. Hurricanes formed in places they hadn't predicted. Electrical storms sparked at random, disrupting their delicate technology. The invaders found themselves fighting not just humans, but the planet itself. They hadn't accounted for the environmental chaos that could come from a world as dynamic and volatile as Earth. And then came the humans. At first, the invaders didn't take the resistance seriously. How could they? Primitive rifles, outdated missiles, and tanks that would have been laughed at in any other scenario were all they saw. They didn't understand why these beings would even attempt to resist. But the resistance wasn't what they expected. Instead of charging head-on in futile displays of bravery, the humans used guerrilla tactics that made no sense to the alien commanders. Soldiers moved with agility, blending into urban landscapes, forests, and mountains, appearing and disappearing before the aliens could react. They attacked supply lines, sabotaged equipment, and used the environment to their advantage. They moved in small, coordinated groups, confusing the larger alien forces that were used to dominating open battlefields. More unsettling to the aliens was humanity's adaptability. The invaders had landed in cities around the world, thinking that by taking out the hubs of civilization, the planet would quickly fall into submission. But humans didn't rely solely on centralized command structures. As soon as the first strikes hit, civilians took up arms, engineers turned factories into makeshift weapons depots, and hackers worked tirelessly to infiltrate alien communication networks. It wasn't long before the humans started to understand their enemies' weaknesses. Human soldiers hacked into the alien systems, using what the invaders thought was primitive technology to exploit vulnerabilities they hadn't even considered. The aliens had never encountered a species so quick to reverse engineer their tech, much less in the middle of an invasion. What should have been easy became complex. What should have been straightforward became disorganized. The invaders, with all their superiority, had not expected to face an enemy that fought so unpredictably. Every time they thought they had neutralized a threat, a new one emerged. Each time they adapted their strategy, humans found a way around it. Alien commanders watched, dumbfounded, as their advanced machinery was dismantled by hands that had never seen such technology before. What they had dismissed as crude human tools were now being used against them in ways they hadn't foreseen. Frustration spread through the ranks of the invaders. Their weapons, capable of leveling planets, were of little use in the dense, unpredictable environments of Earth. Urban warfare, jungle ambushes, and freezing cold in mountainous regions, they hadn't prepared for this. Their soldiers, trained in galactic warfare, were now facing terrain that their simulations had never replicated. It wasn't just the physical resistance that threw the aliens off balance. It was the psychological aspect. The humans didn't break. Every time the aliens expected surrender, the humans regrouped, found new ways to fight back. Casualties mounted on both sides, but where the aliens saw loss as a weakening, the humans seemed only to grow stronger, fueled by their survival instinct. The aliens began to wonder if they had gravely misunderstood what they were dealing with. How could a species so divided and technologically inferior put up this much resistance? Confusion turned to disbelief when they encountered what they thought were Earth's outdated electronic systems being used to scramble their own. Humans hacked into their drones, used basic tools to manipulate their AI, and somehow created chaos among their own ranks. They couldn't comprehend how such a technologically primitive society could grasp their systems so quickly. As hours turned into days, the invaders realized they were in for a far longer battle than anticipated. Their initial confidence began to wane. With every new report, with every failed strike, the alien commanders grew more frustrated. Their technology, which had never failed them before, was falling short against a species that wasn't supposed to be a threat. The humans were using stealth, sabotage, and misdirection to a degree that bewildered their enemy. They attacked under the cover of night, launched ambushes from hidden locations, and even turned civilian infrastructure into battlefields. Every attempt the aliens made to bring order was met with another wave of resistance. It wasn't long before cracks started to show in the invaders' strategy. Orders became frantic, illogical. They couldn't maintain control over the chaos. Their ships, once thought invincible, were now being shot down by weapons they had scoffed at. Their ground forces, unaccustomed to fighting in such conditions, found themselves outmatched by the humans' sheer will to survive. The longer the conflict dragged on, the more the aliens realized that they had gravely underestimated the complexity of Earth. They had thought they were dealing with a defenseless planet, but they were discovering, too late, that Earth had a way of turning its perceived weaknesses into strengths. The resilience and adaptability of humans were unlike anything they had encountered before. What had begun as a calculated invasion was quickly spiraling into something else entirely. They had miscalculated badly. The longer the invasion dragged on, the more the invaders realized something fundamental: they were not facing the enemy they had expected. Their initial assumption had been that Earth's defenses were non-existent, its people weak, and its technology laughable. But now, their advanced systems and carefully crafted strategies were failing in ways they couldn't understand. The humans were fighting back with a kind of cunning and resilience that went beyond the alien commander's comprehension. The invaders began to investigate Earth's history more closely, searching for answers. What they found only deepened their confusion. Humanity had endured countless wars, natural disasters, and existential threats, each one seemingly more catastrophic than the last. And yet, Earth's civilizations had always rebuilt, always adapted. There was something ingrained in the human spirit that allowed them to thrive in the face of overwhelming odds, a trait that the aliens had not accounted for. Humans had a way of bending their environment to their will, of using whatever tools were available to them in new and inventive ways. The aliens observed this firsthand as human engineers took apart their most advanced machines, studying them and repurposing the technology with shocking speed. What had once been alien weapons were now being turned against their creators. Entire cities that had been on the brink of destruction were fortified overnight, with alien tech integrated into human defense systems in ways that defied conventional logic. The invaders' own weapons began to malfunction as human hackers infiltrated their systems, disabling key functions and even redirecting firepower to turn the invaders' guns against their own ships. The alien fleet, once so confident in its invulnerability, found itself scrambling to adapt to a rapidly changing battlefield. The humans had figured out how to exploit even the smallest weaknesses in the alien technology, and they did so with devastating effect. But it wasn't just the technology that posed a problem for the invaders. The humans themselves were proving far more dangerous than the aliens had ever anticipated. Despite the vast technological gap, human soldiers displayed an uncanny ability to adapt to alien tactics. The invaders would deploy their most sophisticated strategies, only to find the humans countering them with unorthodox maneuvers that should have been impossible for a less advanced species to execute. Guerrilla warfare, urban combat, psychological tactics. Humans excelled in areas where the aliens were woefully unprepared. As the battle dragged on, the invaders realized that their technological advantage was slipping away. The humans weren't just surviving, they were learning, evolving. Each new attack was met with increasingly effective resistance. The aliens found themselves outmatched, not by superior technology, but by sheer human ingenuity and determination. The humans were unpredictable, and that made them dangerous in ways the invaders had never encountered before. The invaders had also failed to grasp the sheer scale of Earth's diversity. Every time they thought they had figured out how to defeat one group of humans, another group with entirely different tactics would rise up to challenge them. Urban fighters in sprawling megacities used the dense infrastructure to their advantage, setting traps and ambushes that decimated alien patrols. In the wilderness, humans used the terrain to launch guerrilla attacks, disappearing into forests, deserts, and mountains where the aliens' technology couldn't follow. Even Earth's climate worked against the invaders. In frigid northern regions, the cold rendered their equipment useless, while in humid jungles, their machines were overwhelmed by the heat and moisture. The humans, however, thrived in every environment. They had spent millennia adapting to the harshest conditions on their planet, and now they were using that experience to fight an enemy that couldn't keep up. The invaders, once so sure of their victory, were now on the defensive. Their commanders, desperate to regain control, sent out more troops, more ships, more firepower. But the more they sent, the more the humans seemed to resist. The invaders couldn't understand it. How could a species so divided, so technologically inferior, continue to fight back with such ferocity? The answer lay in something the aliens had never considered. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their military power, it was their unity in the face of a common enemy. The invasion had brought the people of Earth together in a way that nothing else had before. Nations that had once been rivals now stood shoulder to shoulder, pooling resources, knowledge, and manpower to defend their planet. The invaders had expected to conquer a divided world, but instead they were facing a united force stronger than anything they had anticipated. As the battle for Earth raged on, the invaders began to realize the full extent of their mistake. They had assumed that technology alone would win the war. But humanity had something far more powerful: the ability to adapt, to learn, and to fight with a determination that no alien species could match. The invaders, for all their advanced weapons and machines, had underestimated the human spirit. And now they were paying the price. What the invaders had dismissed as a primitive, defenseless planet was, in fact, a world that had been forged in the fires of countless conflicts. Earth was not weak, it was resilient. Its people were not primitive, they were adaptable. And the invaders were finally beginning to understand why no one had ever succeeded in conquering this small, seemingly insignificant planet. The truth was undeniable. Earth's strength lay not in its technology, but in its people, their ability to endure, to fight back, and to survive against all odds. The invaders had come expecting an easy victory, but they were discovering, to their dismay, that Earth was far from defenseless. In fact, it was the most dangerous planet they had ever encountered. The invaders' initial arrogance had crumbled into disbelief, and now their disbelief turned into fear. What they had thought would be a swift, victorious campaign had devolved into a prolonged nightmare. The longer they stayed on Earth, the clearer it became that they were in over their heads. Humanity had transformed from a minor obstacle to a nearly insurmountable foe. In their command ships high above the planet, the alien leaders struggled to make sense of their situation. Reports flooded in cities that should have fallen in hours were still holding strong. Entire platoons had been wiped out by what the aliens had thought were primitive weapons. Their most advanced technology was being hacked, repurposed, or outright destroyed by human hands. They were losing control, and they had no explanation for it. The leaders gathered in emergency meetings, their once confident demeanor now shadowed by panic. "How is this possible?" one commander demanded. "They have nothing that compares to us in strength or intellect. They are divided. Their planet is barely holding together. How can they be winning?" A silence fell over the group. No one had an answer. The truth was too horrifying for them to accept. The invaders, so used to victory, had never encountered a species like humanity before. Their mistake had been in believing that power alone was enough to win. They had not understood that humans thrived in adversity. Earth's inhabitants were survivors, shaped by millennia of struggle, and their strength was not something that could be measured by technological prowess alone. Slowly, the alien leaders came to a grim realization. The humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't give up, no matter how dire the situation. For humans, survival wasn't just about winning or losing, it was about refusing to be conquered. It was about adapting to whatever was thrown at them and turning it to their advantage. Even more unsettling for the invaders was the discovery that Earth was not only resistant to conquest, but that it had repelled every previous invasion attempt. The records, which the aliens had dismissed as anomalies, now took on new meaning. Time and time again, powerful species had tried to take this planet, and time again, they had failed. Earth was quite simply unconquerable. The invaders began to see the truth: humanity had faced extinction more times than they could count, and yet they had always found a way to endure. Whether through war, disease, natural disaster, or now alien invasion, the people of Earth always found a way to fight back. And they didn't just fight, they learned. Each battle made them stronger. Each challenge honed their ability to survive. The alien commanders were forced to admit that their plan had failed. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, their adaptability, and above all, their capacity for unity in the face of a common threat. What they had thought would be a routine conquest had turned into a desperate struggle for survival on their end. As the invaders retreated from Earth's surface, they realized they had no choice but to leave. Every attempt to escalate the conflict had been met with even fiercer resistance. Their ships, once thought to be unstoppable, had been brought down by human ingenuity. Their ground forces, used to quick victories, had been decimated by guerrilla tactics. They had nothing left to fight with. In the end, the invaders abandoned the idea of conquering Earth. It wasn't just that the humans were formidable fighters, it was that the very nature of Earth itself seemed to resist conquest. This planet, with its unpredictable environment, its resilient people, and its deep history of survival, was not worth the cost. As the fleet prepared to retreat, the alien leaders sent out a final transmission to their homeworld. They warned their species and any others that might listen, do not attack Earth. This planet, with its deceptively primitive appearance, was far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. The humans were not a weak, divided species. They were something else entirely, something the galaxy had not yet encountered. The legend of Earth spread quickly through the stars. Species that had once considered the planet an easy target now avoided it at all costs. Stories of the humans' resilience, their ingenuity, and their refusal to be conquered became the stuff of myth. Some spoke of Earth as a cursed world, a place where would-be conquerors went to die. Others simply referred to it as a death trap. In the halls of the galactic councils, the message was clear: leave Earth alone. No matter how advanced your technology, no matter how great your numbers, Earth was a planet that could not be taken. Humanity had made sure of that. And so the invaders left, their ships retreating into the darkness of space. They had come expecting an easy victory, but what they had found was far more terrifying than they had ever anticipated. Earth was not a planet of primitive life forms waiting to be subjugated. It was a planet of survivors, of fighters, of people who would never bow to any force, no matter how powerful. As the alien fleet disappeared into the void, the humans watched from the surface, knowing they had once again defended their home. For them, it was just another chapter in a long history of survival. For the rest of the galaxy, it was a lesson: never underestimate Earth. Because, as the invaders now understood, Earth's greatest defense was not its technology, but its people. And no one, no matter how advanced, could ever conquer that.